right, cool. You know to look at me, you know to answer complete
Yeah,
sentences. We've done this
I've
before.
done your
Cool.
thing.
What's your name? What's your tag? What do you do for Smash?
My name is Nick Maddox, and my tag is Maddox. And I, what don't I do for Project M? Let's be real. My I started out as a PM player, and now I'm like a very involved community member in PM. I've like taken a stab at TOing. I commentate a lot. I'm part of the Project M back room. And I've like, I was like the main guy behind leading like the organized rule set for the Project M circuit. I'm working on the tier list for some reason right now. And like the funny thing is like the reason that like I'm able to do like involved with so much stuff in Project M, and the reason why I have so much like I get to like voice an opinion on very important things in the community is just because I'm good at shit posting. Like I literally don't do anything. I just like talk shit and say funny things, and people like give me responsibility because of it.
All right, let's talk about Project M. How would you explain Project M to your mom or your people that are completely know nothing about anything related to Smash?
Project M is a mod for Brawl because Brawl sucked. It was this like game that was the successor to Melee, but it wasn't nearly as good as Melee because they took away, or that's unfair. It was just not as exciting as Melee because they took away a lot of mechanics that made the game fast-paced and interesting to watch and combo heavy. So a bunch of nerds decided to get together and mod the game to make it more like the game they wanted it to be a sequel to. And they ended up with Project M, which is just like grown to be this ridiculous like fan creation game that is like this huge thing that I'm a part of now.
Since you mentioned it, what is a mod? What does that mean when something is a mod?
A mod is when you take the original game and you modify it to be something that it wasn't before. And in in Brawl's case, they modded it to just be more like Melee.
Right. So what's your like history with Smash? How did you sort of get involved? Did you play any Brawl? Did you play any Melee before PM?
I played Melee like casually as like a little kid. I knew about like tournaments in the pro scene because I like watched videos and I was like, oh my gosh, they move so fast. And me and my friends knew about it, but we were like, that's way too hard, and we don't have like tournaments near our area, so we just played for fun, and like all I did was forward the Smash with Fox. And then Brawl came out, and we were like, we're gonna take this shit seriously. But still, there were no tournaments that we could find near us, so we just played. I played Brawl online a lot. And I was awful, but I thought I was good. And so I played a lot of Brawl online for like the entirety of Brawl's existence. And then I just kind of stopped playing Smash for a while. And I got back into Smash because my friend saw the trailer for Project M 3.0 with Mewtwo going crazy and doing all this cool stuff. And we were like, wow, this looks so cool. So we downloaded it and then we played it, and it was like the most fun I've ever had playing Smash was playing Project M 3.0, like the first day it came out. And I immediately got back into Smash, and eventually me and my friend Taylor, Nasty T. Wyman, we decided to venture down to, because we couldn't find tournaments where people played. And then finally we found on Facebook a San Diego Project M community. And we went down to UCSD where we met, I met the first Smasher that I've ever met, Lucas Brace. And he was a character. And anyway, we played with him, and I beat his ass to the ground with my stupid overpowered Yoshi. And then I beat up like some other Smashers, and I was like, wow, I'm a god at this game. And then like a couple weeks later, a tournament was started by my boy Mitch in San Diego, and I went to that, and it was called PM in the PM, and it was my first Smash tournament. And I didn't go like 0-2. I went 2-2. Or 3-2. I did like okay for my first tournament, but there were like 3 or 4 like really good players there that I was like, ooh, like these are the guys that like I have to beat. Like these are like the people that I like really, if I want to be the best, like I have to beat these guys. So that like sort of got me super interested in the game and to like continue to come back and play it was like the competitive atmosphere of it.
Wait for that plane. Briefly, since you mentioned it, before we move on to just talking about 3.0, can you tell me a little bit about the Brawl online experience and how that was?
Should I wait for the plane?
Yeah, wait for the helicopter. I hope it circles for the entire duration of the
That'd be so sick.
We had that happen when we were interviewing Switch at the balcony. Like, you just like
A helicopter
it would just
was
circle
circling?
the whole time. It would come by like every 10 minutes, and we had to stop and
It's
wait.
annoying. Okay. Is it good? Is it good
We
now?
good?
No, just wait. See, I can still see that fucker, so no.
All right, I can't see it anymore. But tell me when. Wait. Hold. Okay, go. All right, Brawl Online. Tell me about that.
Brawl Online was like super, it was like online for any game now, I guess. Maybe a little bit worse than like NetPlay is currently. But I play it on like All Is Brawl with like random people who also took the game seriously. I even played with like a group from like the website IGN, like had Smash boards that were pretty popular. And I like played a lot of nerds on that. But it was like, it was very laggy and there's like serious input lag, but it did, I think, make me better at Smash. I think you can get a lot of value out of like online play, even though it like has like a bunch of problems with lag, just because it makes your fundamentals better. Like you still have to beat the other person, even though there's like laggy bullshit Johns, you know?
All right. Cool. So let's talk about 3.0. So why is 3.0? Why is that like important? Why is 3.0 kind of remembered as this like golden age of Project M? Why was it a big deal?
3.0 wasn't the golden age. We're actually in the golden age right now, but 3.0 was the wild, wild west of PM. Because for the first time...
Hang on. Oh god, it's noon. It's gonna go 12 times before it's done.
God damn it. I'm just getting, my skin's just getting roasted as we go. I'm literally getting skin cancer.
I can hold on. This is gonna be a bit. Hold that. I got you, Tim. Just gonna stand right here. Just gonna block your head. How's that feel?
Thanks, homie.
Yeah, I got you.
2, 3.
Is it really
Oh,
good?
God.
12?
It's noon.
I just thought it does the same thing every
5.
hour.
No, it goes off based on the
6.
time.
Oh yeah, you're definitely getting red as this goes, so we need to give you as much
7.
shade as we can.
8.
What if just halfway through the interview he just has a hat?
Do you have a hat? I'll wear it.
I have sunglasses, that's it.
God damn
I have
it.
a jacket. All right, that was 12. We're
Is that
good.
12?
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, let's go.
All right. So 3.0 was the Wild West of Project
Yeah,
M.
3.0 was the wild, wild west. Because for the first time, the Project M was as popular and taken as seriously, for the most part, as all the other Smash titles. But at the same time, the game was still complete bullshit. Like, it was super volatile. Every character had just like something crazy that made them like super broken or like just completely unfair in one way or another. And that's what made it so fun though, because like any bad player could pick up the game and abuse some broken random fundamental that people didn't even know against and didn't have any idea of how to play against. And it was basically like, oh, every character is crazy. I can pick up a character that no one knows what they're doing, do something totally unfair, and like get wins. So it was like, and at the same time, there's more entrants in the tournaments than there ever are. So it was like insane because it was this broken game being played very seriously in really large tournaments. And I think that's why it's kind of considered the golden age, even though it's not the golden age, it's the Wild Wild West, is that like it got people hooked on the game because they saw all these crazy things happening and they saw these big tournaments and they wanted to be a part of it because it was just so interesting to watch.
So what was the point where you felt like Project M was like, what was the PM has made it moment? When was the point where it was like, this thing is a big deal, this thing is mainstream, this thing is like happening?
The moment that I realized it was mainstream was just when it's kind of weird because it's also the like when it had its downfall, but I feel like it's when it became a big deal was when Gimmer did the fundraiser for Xanadu. He did like a fundraiser for Xanadu to like raise money to have him stream full time and like so he could become like a full-time streamer, because Xanadu was the most popular stream at the time and their biggest game was Project M. So seeing like a ton of people donate to this cause for Project M, which ironically, you know, ended up not benefiting Project M at all, or at least ended up causing a lot of controversy and weird things to happen for the scene. Seeing a bunch of people dedicate to that and like having that be a big deal, and having the Xanadu PM weeklies every week be like the most viewed just like Smash tournament, that was when I was like, okay, this is like a real game, like people are taking this seriously.
Let's talk a little bit about Xanadu. So why was Xanadu the tournament? Why did people care about it so much? Why was it so popular?
I think Xanadu was the tournament because it had, well, I don't actually know, because here in SoCal, the tournaments were like bigger or as big as Xanadu, and we had really good players too. Everyone really cared about it. But I think it was just like the quality of the stream from Xanadu and like the quality of their commentators and just like the atmosphere that they presented online. It like boosted their popularity a lot. And like obviously Gimmer's a really good streamer. He's like the main streamer for Melee and like all the big events now. And everything VG Bootcamp does is like still a big deal. So I think that like it was really not so much like the quality of the Smash being played, although they had really good players. Like they had Junebug, they had Boss, and they had Pink Fresh. They had like all the really good like a bunch of really good players in Xanadu. But it was more just that like it was being presented so professionally and so seriously at Xanadu that like got people to like be like, oh, this is like a real Smash game. This is like a big deal. And I think that's why Xanadu is remembered as like this huge thing for Project M.
Any thoughts on SSS for PM?
SSS was like our version. It was like our Xanadu. It was like the main SoCal tournament that everybody went to. But it was not as like popular stream-wise. It didn't get as much attention online. Although I think at the time, I mean, maybe I'm wrong because we never got to see them fight against each other. I think that the SoCal players were actually better. We had like Larry, who was like super good at the time. We had Tyrant, who now they've moved on to Smash 4. But like at the time, they were like insane Project M players. For a while, Mewtwo King lived in SoCal. He was like on our PR. And SSS would get like 90 entrants a week during 3.0. It was like crazy how popular SSS was. And it was at just like this janky little, like, it was a crappy venue. Like the venue was hot and small and cramped, and like nobody really liked it. It was just the fact that there were so many people there and that it was such a, like, everyone took it so seriously, and there's such a high level of competition in this jank game. But it didn't get as much like notoriety as like Xanadu or even like some of the DFW tournaments, but I think it was like one of the bigger like Project M tournaments at the time.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on any of the 3.0 majors? Did you watch or attend any of those? Apex, Skatar, Studio, anything?
I didn't attend any 3.0 majors because we didn't have any majors in SoCal at the time, and I wasn't good enough or involved enough at the time to travel for Smash, but I watched them all. I watched like I think it was Skatar where Emu Killer destroyed everyone with Mewtwo and everyone was like, this character's broken. I saw like the crazy Snake Ditto between Prof and Rolex.
Can you talk about, well, yeah, let's dig into Skatar a little bit. Talk about, I guess, like, why was the Emu Killer thing, why was that, what happened there, and why was that a big deal?
Emu Killer was a big deal because he was relatively unknown at the time. I think he was like, he just went to like a few Nebulous locals, and like he also played net play a little bit from what I understand, and I think he like was sort of like a former Melee player, but he sort of just came out of nowhere, even though like he had been kind of good in other places. He just came out of nowhere with Mewtwo, who was considered the best character, and he like proved that Mewtwo was like the best character in 3.0. He like used the like teleport glitch, or like, I don't know if it's a glitch, but the teleport invincibility, and like fully abused like teleport, hover, nair, and just like all these like crazy tools that like Mewtwo had that like other characters didn't have anything. And every character had crazy tools, but Mewtwo's tools were like nuts. And he just like abused it, and he beat like all the best players. Like he beat M2K with Mewtwo, and he beat all like the really good players. I think he beat Professor Pro, maybe not, maybe Professor Pro was eliminated by someone else, but he beat everybody, and he was like this random unknown. And so it like created this like thing where people were like, oh my god, he's so good, and other people were like, oh my gosh, it's just PM bullshit jank. He's just winning because he's using a broken PM character and doing broken PM stuff. So it was like, Skatar is a big event because it gave a lot of people opinions about the game based off like what happened.
Any thoughts on the Snake Ditto money match?
The Snake Ditto money match was for a long time my favorite Project M match ever, because I don't really care about like the mechanics of the match or like what like they actually did in game. It was just the amount of disrespect and the amount of hype around it were so like palpable that you just it like resonated and stuck with you for so long. Like the fact that like Professor Pro like paused on the first game when he killed Rolex with the sticky and like danced on him, and like the commentators were freaking out, everyone behind them was freaking out, and then like Rolex like beat him the next game and popped off. It was just so exciting to watch because they were so into it, and they like were clearly having fun, and there was so much like stakes and disrespect involved too. So it was just like really memorable.
Thoughts on any of the other majors that happened during that time? Apex, CEO, Big House, Potatoes?
Apex I watched, but I didn't. I mean, Apex was cool because that's where Armada like won with Pit, and like the Swedish sniper thing comes from. I don't think a lot of people know nowadays that like that's where Armada gets the Swedish sniper nickname, is from just like arrowing people to death with Pit, who was also broken in 3.0. So that was kind of cool. That was like I think for a long time that was like the biggest Project M tournament until Paragon came along. So that was a big deal, and it was cool to be at Apex. Like the fact that PM got to be there, one of like the biggest like yearly. Yeah. I don't think it happens anymore, but for a long time Apex was like a serious deal for Smash.
So guess what? Yeah, why is it a big deal for PM to be at Apex? Why was that like crazy at the time?
Because PM was like a mod and it was a fan game. It wasn't like an official Smash title. And so the fact that it was being taken seriously and got like one of the like main spots at Apex meant that, oh, people are like seriously taking this game, like they're like trying to compete in it as if it were just like a normal Smash title. They like actually believed that it was something worth competing in. So that's like why I thought it was a big deal that it was at Apex.
So during 3.0 back in the day, in those early days, was the legal concern about Project M, was that something that did people talk about it? Was it a concern? Was it something that people were worried about?
I can't even really remember like back in 3.0 whether or not people were concerned about like PM's legality. I think that everyone like knew like deep down that like, you know, this is probably not the most legal thing. It's probably not like Nintendo could get angry at this. But at the same time, it was like, we never thought that it would get so big or like it would become such an issue or gain so much attention that Nintendo would actually act on it. And so that was like just always something that was just in the back of our heads, but never really like an actual fear. At least for me, it was never like an actual fear. I wasn't like super, I wasn't as involved in the community as I am now. So maybe like higher up community members during 3.0 were concerned about it, but I wasn't, as just like a normal tournament attendee. But we also looked at other games, like part of the reason I felt secure in it was that like if you look at like where other famous games like Counter-Strike or Dota came from, those also started as mods and were embraced by their creators and became like a popular game in and of themselves. So it was like, if those games can do it, why not Project M? But the difference was that those were run by like American companies, and Nintendo had a much different view on the whole thing than, you know, the companies that those games were created by.
We'll wrap back around to that. Can you, with your left arm, can you move it to the other side of that cable? So just like on top instead of, like that. That's good. All right, cool. Any other thoughts on the 3.0 era before we move on?
3.0 is just the Wild Wild West. I don't know what else to say. Everybody was broken. I personally got carried in 3.0 because I played Yoshi, and nobody like cared about Yoshi because Yoshi's so weird. but his side B was probably the best move in the entire. I swear to this day, I think Yoshi's side B was the best move in the game in 3.0. It was so broken, and it carried me so hard. So people thought I was like pretty good in 3.0, even though I wasn't, and that was nice.
Ultra, yeah, thing. Since you keep using the word, what does broken mean? When you say broken, what is that?
Broken just means that it's like really good, and I think the reason people say broken is like, oh, like this is like shouldn't be in the game. It's like something that's wrong with the game because it's so good. And a lot of stuff in Project M is broken, but a lot of stuff in Smash in general is broken. I think that's what makes the game fun, is that like when certain characters have something that's like really good or like too good, that's what makes it exciting to watch. I think like watching Fox in Melee and watching his shine and his up smash, those are clearly broken, but like it's exciting. It makes the game entertaining to see. So like having a bunch of characters that have broken stuff keeps it really lively.
All right. Talk about 3.5. How do you feel about 3.5?
3.5 is where I really got into Project M, because that was like where everything from 3.0 was like toned down, and the game, it had the same spirit where every character was viable, every character had really good stuff. There was still some broken stuff left over from 3.0, like Lucario. David got carried, whatever. He didn't actually get carried, he was really good. But anyway, 3.5 like toned down everything. Like 3.5 was when the game felt like, okay, this game is like legitimate. Like this is like, all the like ridiculous stuff is gone and we're left with like a solid game. And so that's when I really got into it and started like attending tournaments more and starting getting more involved with like the community. And it was also like, it coincided with my like, I wasn't new to the community anymore. I had like made friends. And so it was just, all I really remember is like, that's when I became like very involved.
Can you talk a little bit about like, outside of your reaction, how did other people sort of react to that release, and how is it different from how you felt about it?
Some people were really upset about 3.5. Also 3.5, okay, I forgot about this, but 3.5 coincided with the like shutdown of Project M at Xanadu. So like, around 3.5, it was becoming clear to other people that like, oh, this game maybe can't last because they're like the legal things, the hidden secret legal things that nobody talks about were becoming more of a reality. So for that reason, and the fact that a lot of like quote unquote broken characters had their broken things nerfed, a lot of people found the game less enjoyable or less like, less valuable for them to play if they were like a top player. And a lot of people were upset because 3.0, you had all this crazy stuff and people could do all this crazy things, and then you took them away drastically. Like your characters got changed negatively in like a dramatic way. And I was personally upset when my character got changed, but I ended up realizing that it was for the better in the long run. But a lot of people just couldn't get over the fact that they couldn't do these absurd things in the game anymore, and it made them not want to, it made the game less fun for them, which is understandable because, you know, it sucks to have your main strategy or like a huge tool in your gameplay taken away so like abruptly, and then suddenly you're performing worse and you don't know whether it's because you actually sucked all along or if it's because your character was over nerfed. And there was just basically like all this controversy of like, they nerfed too much, or like they didn't nerf enough, or like this character's still broken, or like there's a lot of controversy around 3.5, but I think overall it made the game better. I don't know if it was as healthy for the community as like the craziness that 3.0 was, but I think it made the game better, but people definitely had a lot of negative reactions to it too.
Briefly, what's the word nerf? What does that mean?
Nerf just means that you take a character and you make them worse by, you know, by any means. Like, you can make a character worse by reducing the range on their attacks, like making their tools worse, giving them less damage, less kill options. But you can also nerf a character by just making the other characters better, or like making the characters that they struggle against more prominent. Those are like indirect nerfs. So like, in 3.0 to 3.5, there was like a slew of nerfs where just like every character was like had subtractions to their like current tools. But there was also like some buffs to characters. Buffs are like when you make a character better, in that like when like every character was like was nerfed in 3.5, the characters that were left relatively untouched were also made better in comparison because all the characters around them were worse. So they were like indirectly buffed. So I don't know.
All right, let's dig into the Gimmer stuff. So what happened with that? What was that situation, and then kind of how did you react to that, and how did other people react to it?
The Gimmer situation was really dramatic because it was so cryptic. It was just like he had this big fundraiser to like become independent, and then he was like, "Oh, okay, I got my money, peace," and like with no real explanation as to why he was shutting it down. I mean, you could like have a theory, and like obviously it's probably something you couldn't talk about, but he was like partnered with Twitch, and like which in turn was partnered with Nintendo, and it just became like it was very clear that something was going on, but Gimmer didn't tell anybody what, and he probably couldn't have. But because nobody understood what was going on, it created a lot of like chaos and like panic and like just general like some people were just like straight up mad and hated Gimmer and blamed him for every like problem that happened to the game they loved. And it was like kind of unfair to Gimmer because it was like, I don't know like his reasons for like dropping Xanadu, but I'm sure they were good, and I'm sure they were like a necessity. He obviously cared about the game before he dropped it from his stream. So like people were just like so mad over like the game getting dropped, but like I don't think they like really saw the big picture, or like were unwilling to like accept that there was information that they couldn't know that was the reason, like a good reason for it to be dropped. But it definitely caused like more panic and chaos than like anything I've ever seen in like the Smash community, because it was just so abrupt and so cryptic.
If you were in his position, do you think you would have done the same thing that he did?
I mean, I don't know what his position was entirely. I probably would have if I was him, because Gimmer cares about Smash as a whole, and he's also like trying to make a living out of this. You know, like he's trying to like make VG Bootcamp. Like that's his company. That's his livelihood. He made it his livelihood with his fundraiser. So he is more personally invested in it. I'm just personally invested in PM. I don't care as much about the other Smash games. So if it was me, I would have probably like been like, okay, I can't be on Twitch. I'll run streams for Project M on like some other like second, like, you know, some other streaming service. But like, I think that the situation was just different. He cared about Smash as a whole. He cared about his company, and Project M, even though he cared about it a lot, was just one piece of everything that he was trying to accomplish. So he had to make a sacrifice. And it's like, I don't blame him for that. But it definitely had an impact on the community, for better or for worse. A lot of people will say for worse, but who knows?
Any thoughts on Smash 4 and how the release of Smash 4 affected the PM community?
Smash 4 didn't seem like an issue for like the beginning of it. When because Smash 4 came out on like 3DS first before it came out on the Wii U, and nobody really cared. Like people cared about it and they were like interested, like people obviously super interested in the 3DS Smash. But it didn't become a really big deal until the Wii U version came out, and then people were like, so many people were just down to jump ship. Like so many PM players, like so many of the top players, especially in SoCal, like Tyrant, Larry, K9, they were just like, this new game's out and it's more popular and it can be on Twitch, it can be like streamed, and it can get me notoriety and it can get me more money and sponsorships, so peace. So they just like dipped on PM entirely, and that, I think it was less so the fact that like there was like a new game taking all of our players. It was more that like a new game was taking all of our best players, and the fact that so many of the best players and the top players that everyone knew and were interested in were leaving for this other game, it killed a lot of people's interest in PM, because people watch Smash, a lot of people watch Smash for the personalities and the top players. So like if I'm watching, like I'm a big Mango fan, and if he stops playing Melee, I'm gonna stop watching Melee as much. Like straight up, I'll watch whatever other game he plays because I'm interested in Mango. And so a lot of people were interested in the people that played PM, like Pink Fresh, who left and played Smash 4. So they followed those people, and it kind of left PM in the lurch with all their viewers migrating with the top players.
Any thoughts on Apex 2015 announcing their next event and saying they had all the Smash games and then not having Project M? Do you remember that? Do you have any thoughts on it?
I don't remember that very well. I remember like people being outraged. I feel like I didn't care that much when it happened. I don't remember like the timeline of things and whether or not that was like commonplace to me at that time. But I do remember like someone posted like a picture on like those PM Reddit of just like the PM setups at Apex 2015, and it was just like 3 dudes like huddled in a corner playing on a single CRT, and it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so depressing. It was like, this is what our great game has like become, like just this like just these like homeless people in a corner, like just like, you got PM, like it was just so rough.
Yeah, because can you talk a little bit about just like, what was it like as a person who was very into Project M to have all these things start happening to Project M? How did it feel, and what was it like for you?
To me personally, I liked the game so much that I didn't care. I also wasn't like that like, I wasn't like a, I mean, it's stupid of myself to call myself a community leader now, even though I guess that's kind of what I am. But at the time, what's up? Oh.
That's a helicopter. It's the Nintendo police.
Fucking Nintendo Gestapo.
They were on our asses. Fucking, we were interviewing Swid. Oh, God, when we went to the fucking Nintendo HQ, like, we were so scared.
That they would like.
That they were gonna be like, well, because we went.
Did you interview Nintendo people?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say.
Went to their headquarters in Washington. we shot a bunch of B-roll in their building, and like we like went all over their campus and like took like video of their like security card readers and shit. And,
oh
like,
my
all
God.
of the security stuff, because like I need that.
Yeah,
you know?
that's atmospheric.
Yeah.
There was a shitty point where I was like shooting the security door.
Yeah.
And I didn't know they were coming right
and
at me.
I like walked past Adrian, and I'm just like.
And I look over, I'm like, what are you talking? Oh shit.
not like they're gonna come get us, but just like we should probably go.
That's so funny. I mean, you're probably like overly paranoid just because they don't know what you're doing.
No. Yeah. So what were we talking about?
Dramatic things happening.
Yeah. So what was that like? You know, you liked the game enough that you didn't care.
Yeah, I liked the game enough that I didn't care, but I was like aware of it. Had I been like a community leader at the time, I would have probably cared more. But at the time, I was just focused on playing PM and getting better at the game. I was just like, I don't care that it's getting dropped from, you know, big tournaments, that other players are leaving or whatever. I still love the game, so I'm going to continue to go play it. And like, it's my favorite Smash game, so that's what I'm going to play. And I think that like, that was kind of cool because it led to like where PM is now, where only like the diehards who were really interested in the game were the ones that stuck around to play it. And I think personally, I think it made the community cooler and more fun and exciting, that only like the serious players who like love and were super passionate about the game were left. But like some people could view it as a negative. I don't know. I think like on one hand it's a negative because we lost players and like the game will never be taken as seriously as maybe it was in 3.0 maybe. But on the other hand, I got to experience this whole new community that was like so different from what Smash communities are now today. It was like I was getting to experience like the olden times of like grassroots Melee, except it was grassroots PM now, and like it was just janky little people like playing in like card shops, like small turnouts where you knew every single person there. And I don't know, I think it sucked that we were losing people, but it also gave PM like something that I think no other Smash game has today.
Briefly, as a word we hear thrown around a lot is grassroots. What do you mean when you say that PM or Smash is grassroots or isn't grassroots? What does that mean?
Grassroots just means that it's like run entirely by the people. It has no support from like any organizations, no sponsorships. It's not something that's mainstream and viewed by tons of people. It's just like every part of Smash, all the big events, everything that we run, everything that we do to support the game is just done entirely by like the people that play the game. Like we do everything ourselves and nobody helps. And that's what being grassroots basically boils down to. And sometimes that can be like a good thing because it makes the community more, I think, invested in itself, and it makes people care more.
Let's talk about Paragon. What's Paragon LA 2015? What was that tournament?
Paragon was was it my first major? Yeah, Paragon was my first major ever. And it was also it's the biggest Project M tournament to date, although I think that can change, and I think it will change. But it was hyped up as being the biggest Project M tournament that we were ever gonna get, and it came at a time where like it was like at the crux of when Project M was becoming like, oh, you can't play this anymore, is basically when we were gonna have the biggest tournament of all time, which is crazy because everyone was going to it. People were traveling from all over, and people had like never really, besides like the top players that traveled for other games as well, people never really traveled like just for PM. Like some people did, some of like the really top players, but this was like a ton of people were coming from all over to go to SoCal to like see Paragon, and just for PM. Like they weren't interested in playing Melee or Smash 4, and it got like 400 something entrants. And like a week before it happened, it was announced that it couldn't be streamed on Twitch, that Project M just couldn't be streamed on Twitch at all. So we had to like move to Hitbox like a week before, and it messed with our plans and everything, but it also turned out being like the greatest, like most well-known or remembered like it was like the pinnacle of Project M was this tournament because we all, like everyone just came together. It was like the first time that it was like, I feel like the Project M community existed instead of just being like an offshoot of the Melee or Brawl community. It was like, we became our own separate entity in itself when we went to Paragon. And you know, like LZ won, and like some people were really mad about that.
Yeah, can you
some
talk a little
people
bit about that? What was that? What happened? Who's Mr. L's?
Mr. L's is, I mean, now he's like older and more well known in the community, but at the time, he was just some little punk ass meme kid who like came in with Game & Watch and like just won. He just won Paragon, and like before that he had done well at Evo and like beaten Lucky, and people were like, that's a fluke. And then he won Paragon and everyone was like, what the fuck? This is still a fluke. Game & Watch is broken. This kid can't just like win like this. Obviously now we know that he's actually a really good player, but like some people were like so mad, and some people were like, this is awesome, this kid's so good, and some people were like, fuck Game & Watch. And also like this, I mean, this is a tangent, but like later on we learned that like the patch that 3.5 was played on was going to be like one of the last patches for PM, or I think it was the last patch for PM. So people that were mad about LZ and Game & Watch were like, oh no, we're stuck with this forever now, and Game & Watch is just going to rule the meta. It didn't happen. But anyway, LZ won Paragon, and like it was definitely crazy because everyone was expecting like Junebug or like Lunchables, like or like Mewtwo King, even like the top PM players at the time. And it ended up being like Oracle versus LZ in grand finals, which is such a like PM thing, is to like have like the surprise at the end. And LZ just took it, and it was crazy. He actually, this is like super LZ-ish, is he played Lunchables in like round 2 of winners at Paragon, and he lost game 1 to Lunchables Toon Link. And then he like turned to Lunchables. I don't think this is a rumor. I think this is like real. I was there. He like turned to Lunchables and he was like, I bet you can't beat me with Roy. And so Lunchables was like upset that this kid was like shit talking him. So he picks Roy and loses, and then he loses again. And so he lost to LZ there. And like then he just drops out of the tournament. And I was just like, dude, this little stupid little piece of shit meme kid just like like bullshitted you out of this tournament with like, oh, it was just so funny. And it was like, it's why I love LZ. It's one of my favorite players, just because he's such a little shit face and he's so good. So that was definitely like the LZ tournament, but it was also like, it was just like the huge tournament for PM, because I think it made everyone see that PM could be, like I said, it like made us a real community. It made everyone see that PM could be a big thing on its own. And it gave us a lot of momentum going into like the bad times that were ahead. I don't think, if Paragon never happened, I don't think people would have had the like same confidence that they had going into like the shutdown of Project M, because that gave us like a reason to believe in ourselves. Paragon was like a reason to believe in like what the community was capable of.
So you don't think that it felt like, a lot of people say that they thought that Paragon was going to be it. They thought it was going to be kind of the end.
Oh, a lot of people thought that Paragon was going to be the end. I never felt that way, because I was like, look at this. Like, it's like we're all here. We're having so much fun. It's like such a, like things don't die in like a climactic way. Things just end gradually as they slowly like teeter off. And like Paragon was like a climax. It was like huge. And after seeing that, there was no way that everyone was going to be like, well, we just ran the greatest tournament of all time. Let's stop, you know? Like, there was no way we were going to stop after that. So everyone that was saying that Paragon was going to be the end, I never believed it, and it didn't, so, yeah.
Any thoughts, before we get to some sad stuff, any thoughts on YouTube King's interview at Paragon, where he's on the VGBC stream and mentioning Project M over and over
Oh,
again?
that was so funny, because I think he was being interviewed by Toph.
Yeah.
So he was being interviewed by Toph, and like, it was like very like recent, the whole like don't talk about Project M thing. I think now streams are a little bit more, like Melee streams are a little bit more lenient about it, except for like Blur, but like dude, that's specifics or whatever. But like some people are like more like lenient about talking about Project M now. But at the time, it was like very recent that Xanadu and VG Bootcamp had severed itself from Project M. So it was like, oh, you just do not speak of this. Like, it was like, do not talk about Project M. So when Muta King went on for the Paragon interview, and he was like, yeah, I played Project M, and it's like really fun. I'm pretty interested in that game. I think it's like helping my Melee game. He was like just talking about Project M all like jovially and like casually, and Toph was just like, oh my gosh, like this guy. And I was like, let's fucking go. Like, this is so awesome. So that was pretty cool. And it also like, it just reminds the community at large, because that gets put up on Reddit, and then the community is like, oh yeah, Project M exists, and like, this is like bullshit.
Alright. How'd you find out that they weren't making Project M no more?
Well, I found out that they weren't gonna make the game anymore, like everyone did, when I like went on Facebook or Reddit or whatever. Someone messaged me, and they're like, dude, go on the Project M site, there's like this terrible message. And I read it, and I was like, wow, that's bullshit. It wasn't really like surprising, because I knew that it was always, like at this point, like after Xanadu had cut PM, after like it couldn't be streamed on Twitch anymore, it was like very apparent that like what we were doing was maybe not cool with Nintendo, or obviously not cool with Nintendo. So I knew that it could get shut down. It was pretty abrupt, but it wasn't surprising. And I knew it was like, the part that made me think it was super serious though, was that there was like, I was friends with like a few dev team members, and there was like a general sense of like fear that they were like showing, at least towards me. Where it seemed like they were afraid for their own like personal well-beings as like humans, rather than like, it was like the game was almost secondary to them, because they were just concerned about like their own like legal safety. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like very serious. I knew it was serious because like Jason Waterfalls was my like friend in the PM dev team that I got like the most of. Like, I could always count on Jason to just like, if I wanted to know about like the next patch, or I wanted to know like Project M development team secrets, I could just ask Jason and he'd tell me. He was like my in. He would like play patches with me before they release and stuff. So like, I always knew that I could count on him to tell me like inside PM dev team info, but he wouldn't tell me about like the reasons for the shutdown. He like was adamant about not telling me things about this. And so I was like, oh, like this is a big deal. They're probably under NDAs. Like this is serious. So yeah, I mean, that's how I learned about the shutdown.
All right. So can you talk a little bit about like the messaging around it? Like what was sort of, how much, did you feel like you knew what was happening? Did you feel like they were telling people what was happening? What do you think happened?
I don't remember like the exact words that the message said, but to me, and they didn't say very much at all, but to me, the fact that they weren't saying anything spoke volumes. It was like very clear to me that it like legal action had been taken or could be taken at some point by somebody. Like it was all very vague, but I was like, okay, it's very clear that the Project M development team is under some sort of threat, be it like real or just speculation, and they like, this is something that they don't want to do, but it's a necessity. Like they have to shut themselves down. So I don't think a lot of people understood that. Like there was so much outrage from like people I knew in the community and like people on the internet who maybe didn't know dev team members. They were like, they can't just shut this down. This is like bullshit. They were like so pissed that they were shutting this down. I was like, dude, like these are our friends. And like they obviously care about the game just as much, if not more than we do. They like put the effort in to make it. And if they're freaking out about this and like cutting off all ties and not talking about it, something's seriously wrong here. And like we shouldn't be like just pissed at them because they're not telling us information. We should just like support them because they're obviously in a time of need. I don't know. It was like, there were so many mixed reactions to it that it was interesting. Some of like the community reactions to like the shutdown were just like people got like a like renewed sense of like they became more invested in Project M when it shut down. Like I remember like Humble Dojo was sort of like, I don't know if he was like on his way out, but he was like not attending events as much, not TOing stuff anymore. And as soon as it shut down, he was like, this can't happen. Like we have to run more tournaments. He was like super like, we're not gonna let this game die. No one let this game die. We're gonna keep playing it, doesn't matter. The Balcony was like, we'll run PM until like Nintendo comes and kills everybody. Like everyone was like, a lot of like the TOs and the community leaders were like spurred on to like keep leading it. Some people were like, fuck this game, because like I wanted it to be patched, we're gonna quit. Some people were like, screw the dev team for not telling us. Some people were like, no, like save the dev team, and that was like where I guess I fell in. Yeah, I don't know, there's just a lot of mixed reactions. It was pretty nuts when it happened.
So how did that kind of affect the scene? I would say like in the immediate, like within the first, 4 or 5 months, how did it affect like the PM scene?
I think that like right after it happened, there was like a boom in popularity because people wanted to play the game now that it suddenly, there was like, there's excitement around that and like an air of like, ooh, we're doing something really wrong now. Now we're really fucking up, guys. So it's like, you just like to do evil things. And we're Project M players, so we're evil or whatever. But I think that like, even though there's a boom at first, very shortly after that initial boom, it was like, people were like, okay, well, bye. Because they like lost there was like sort of always a reason to keep playing Project M, even if you weren't thrilled with the game, because you could always count on like whatever thing that you hated in the game or whatever thing that you thought was clearly unfair. You could always hold out hope that that thing would someday go away. Or if you really liked a character that you thought wasn't good, you could always hold out hope that someday they would buff that character and then you'd be the best player in the world. And I think a lot of people thought that way, even though like that's a dumb way of thinking about things. If you want to be good at Smash, you just have to fucking be good at Smash. Like, it doesn't matter how the game changes. Like, you can't rely on the game changing, you just have to be good. But that's the reason I think a lot of people left, is they were either afraid that certain things they didn't like would never change, or certain things they wanted to improve would never improve. And they left for it because it's also like that compounded with the fact that like, it was not being streamed. It was not part of like the mainstream sponsorships and anything like that, and the fact that it was illegal, that a lot of people eventually decided to leave.
So where are we now? Here today, 2017. Where's Project M?
Right now, Project M is what I consider it to be. I don't know if I would call this the golden age, although it kind of is. Now Project M is like grassroots, and I'm somehow became like an influential community member, and so I know everyone in the scene. Like if I go to if I go to New York, if I go all the way across like America, I will like know like 50 people there just from like this game, and I don't know, it's just crazy. Like I know all the players. We're all like a very tight-knit community, but we still have potential for growth, and we still care a lot about the game. Like the PM rank top 50 came out, which is something I worked on. Thank you very much. The bigger Balk happened, which was the biggest event since Paragon, which was before, Paragon was the like tipping point. It was like the last thing before everything started going downhill. So just like the fact that like the game is still able to survive, like despite all of its hardships, that it's still able to see growth in like tournaments like the bigger Balk and Smash and Splash 2 or 3, whatever it was. I think that's like a really hopeful sign. And we also have developed a more stable meta, where now we're starting to see the characters that are clearly, we're starting to define the tier list more. We're starting to see like a meta in like the players, like the top players have basically stagnated. Like we know that like Sosa, Thunders, Malachi, Hyperflame, I'm forgetting Flip, yeah, I'm Fuzz. Switch, that's who I was forgetting. We're seeing like all these players are like the top players, and that isn't changing. Like they constantly go to tournaments, and so it's becoming more, PM has become more static and more like a real thing.
Okay.
It's not gonna come through here, but it's gonna light.
Okay, well, cool. All right, well, while we're waiting for that, I'm going to ask you how Project M has affected you as a person. So you can think on that while we're waiting for playing.
I know we asked you at a bigger Balk, but who's most broken 3.02?
He said Yoshi.
Did you say Yoshi?
He said Yoshi. It's one of my favorite answers to that question we got, because you're like,
I think
a lot
Yoshi,
of people don't think that
yeah,
Yoshi
I think Yoshi is the best.
It's so funny to put that in with everybody else. Yeah, it's fucking Mewtwo.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yoshi's
putting that segment
fucking
together. It's
broken.
gonna be awesome.
Alright, you're good.
All right, yeah. So yeah, how's PM affected you? Changed your life? How are you different because of Project
Oh
M?
man, Project M, it has changed my life. No, it made it way worse. No, I don't know. Project M, it had a big, huge impact on my life because I've spent a lot of time invested in Project M, doing just the stupidest stuff, like arguing about things that like, just who cares? Like arguing about like what character is the best, or like what player is the best, or how a tournament should be run. Just like dumb things. Like, I don't know. I've spent a lot of time on Project M, so just the sheer like volume of like time and years that I put into like the game and like the community and like whatever has affected my life. I've made a ton of friends, which is like, I think the awesome part of like, I think that's the most important thing I got out of PM, is that like I have friends and relationships that I would have never had. I'm friends with people that I would have never interacted with in my normal life. I know people from all across the world, or at least all across America, basically around the world. I know some other like Europeans and stuff that play this game. But I know people from all across America, which I've barely ever even left California yet. I know all these people, and I've interacted with all these people, and I can call myself their friend. I would say that, yeah, it gave me, like, it taught me certain things about like different aspects of life, like competition and like competing in the game taught me about like taking things seriously and how you like have to work really hard to be good at something. How like things just don't get handed to you. Helping run tournaments or like run other community building related things has taught me like the importance of like taking things, doing things well and doing them like professionally, or else they're gonna suck. I've learned like a lot about like the commitment that it takes to like make something good and make something real, and I've like seen like the power that can happen between like just people who care about something working really hard on making that a reality. Like Project M couldn't be what it is today without just like people who cared a lot. Like it's always been about just people who cared a lot. Like the dev team poured their hearts into making something, and they made this like amazing game. They made what I think is the best Smash game. People cared a lot about Project M after it got shut down, and it's still a thriving community today just because people cared. And I think like that's what's like the most important takeaway for me, is that like if you really care about something, it can like thrive and succeed and like be real, as long as people care and they work together and they just make it happen.
Any other thoughts on Project M before we move on to my next set of questions for you?
My only thing is that I just love Project M. I mean, as much as I hate Project M, I also love it, but I really hate it. But it's a great game. It's like, I think it's the best Smash game. It probably like, I don't know if it'll always be the best Smash game. I'm hoping that some game can come along that's better, that's, you know, not hindered by like all these legal restrictions, and like the community can move to that game and we can just call it a day someday. I don't know if everyone shares my sentiment on that, like, but I love Project M. I had a good time with it. I'm still gonna have a good time with it. I'm excited to see, like, hopefully in the future, we can break that Paragon World Record of the biggest tournament of all time, and hopefully I can be a part of that. I think I will. So, I don't know. I just love PM, and I guess it's a shame, all the things that happened to it, but it's also kind of like, it's also kind of wonderful that all this stuff happened to it, because it made Project M what it is to me, and I wouldn't like it if it was like any other, if it was any other way. I like the way that we are right now.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions about Jason Pye, aka Red Ranger. So can you tell me a little bit about Red Ranger's history, how he sort of came up in the SoCal scene?
So Red Ranger started off, I think he joined the community, I'm not entirely sure, but
3.0.
It's 3.0?
Yeah.
Okay, he joined the community like around the same time I did. And he sucked, but the way that he chose to like, the way that he decided to pick his character was he just picked random, and whatever character he got, he was like, this is gonna be my main. And he ended up getting Ganondorf. And the way I see it, he didn't pick Ganondorf. Ganondorf chose Red Ranger. The spirit of Ganondorf was like, Red Ranger is the person that I am going to put all my faith into. And it's the perfect person because he embodies like everything that Ganon is in his like intensity and his like need to just like crush his opponents, and his just like aggression and just like wanting to money match and beat everyone and just fuck people up. Like Red Ranger doesn't care about being the best. He cares about just like fucking people up and being the best Ganon. Like that's that's like his goal in the game. Everyone who plays Smash has like a different goal, and that was like Red's. And he had like it's cool too that Ganon chose him because he didn't pick Ganon. It's cool that Ganon chose him because he ended up getting like a tutor in Mr. Brandendorf. And Brandendorf was like this guy that was basically like, you fucking suck, but you're my friend, so I'm gonna like teach you how to get good. But he's a lot of negative reinforcement there. I remember they like wrote on his face like scrub and stuff after he like lost a money match or a tournament or something. They like just really like beat into Red Ranger that he sucked. But like Red Ranger being the kind of guy that he is, he like persevered beyond that. And ended up at Paragon, the like whatever crazy Project M tournament that it was. He had a $100 money match with Mr. Brandorf, and he fucking won. And it was like intense and crazy how he won. It was like the last game, like last stock, and he just gets that one grab. And as soon as he got the grab, it was just like, everyone knew it was all over. He's just like bam, 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 and then like I was just like, oh my god! And then like he just fucked him up. He like 0 to deathed him on that last stock and like won and like popped off super hard. And it was like this beautiful like completed story of like Red Ranger just like starting off as this shitty Ganon player, being trained by this guy, and then overcoming his master. It was like a storybook, and I was like, this is just like so like how did this like happen in real life? Like those type of things don't happen, but that did for Red Ranger. So yeah, Red Ranger is pretty sick. He's
like his personality a little bit. What's Red like as a dude?
He's just like, I think the main word I would use is like aggressive. He's like a chill, friendly guy. He's cool to hang out with. But when it comes to like competing, he's so like, he's like, yo, let's money match right now. Or like, he'll be like, yo, I'll fuck you up. Like he's not afraid to like talk smack or like to get himself involved in like serious like confrontations. He also like, I don't know personally much about his past, but I'm pretty sure he like was kind of like a street kid like growing up, and like grew up like, he's definitely not like your average smasher that grew up like with just like, I don't know, most smashers are just a bunch of little fucking pussies, but Red Ranger is just not like that at all. Red Ranger's like, yeah, he's just like, he's his own breed for sure.
Any thoughts on his playstyle, the way he plays Smash?
I've never really thought that like his playstyle was particularly cool, because he chain grabs a lot, and that's not very cool. But I get like super hyped for watching him play, just because I can feel his like passion in Ganondorf's animations. Like when he's chain grabbing someone, I can feel like every ounce of rage and anger as he just slams their body into the ground. It feels like he's actually just slamming the person into the ground when he's chain grabbing them. Like I get like the sense that like he's just so like, he is Ganondorf like as he's destroying people, and that's what makes him exciting to watch. Not necessarily like what he's doing, but just like the way that he does it. It's just so dirty.
Any other thoughts on Red?
No, I like Red a lot. I think that he's dumb for always saying that he's gonna quit and then he never does. But every Smasher does that, so whatever. I'm gonna quit, by the way.
Cool.
Yeah.
I guess briefly, any thoughts on Switch? You know anything about that guy?
Switch is like, I think the whole like PM Mango thing is kind of silly. But it is entertaining. It's funny that he does it. But I wish he would just kind of like become more of his own person. But I do really like Switch. He's like one of the nicest people in the whole community, which I wasn't expecting, because I didn't know what to expect when I first met Switch. But he's actually like extremely nice and just fun-loving. And I like that he can still like talk some trash every now and then, because it's rare that you get someone that's like able to like talk trash but not be like serious about it. Like Smashers are so fucking lame sometimes. Like they'll just like be like, they'll take things too seriously, or they'll like get like really upset over like the little like mundane things. And Switch is able to like just be really casual about everything while still like having fun with the game and talking mad shit. And he's really fucking good. Like Switch is like, the thing that's crazy to me about Switch is that he's so dedicated. Like, and people don't realize this about him because he's such like a fun-loving guy, but he like goes to every single fucking tournament that he can. Like he's always trying his best to like become better at the game, and it like it showed. He like drastically improved over like such a short period of time. It was like, oh, he's Switch, he's just like this mediocre wolf player, and now it's like he's one of the best he might be the best player. Like everyone's like, he's like so good now. He's the only one to prove. Everyone thought that Wolf was one of the best characters, but no one had proved it, and he was like, I'll fucking prove it. He did that. So Switch is really sick. I like Switch a lot. I will forever side with there's like, I feel like there's like kind of, everyone talks about like the Thunder Sosa rivalry. I think it's more of a Thunder Switch rivalry, but just because like of all the top 4, top whatever players, those are the two that like talk the most trash amongst each other. So I'll forever side with Sosa, because I'm SoCal till the day I fucking die. But Switch is a cool guy. But
I guess briefly,
yeah.
who's Sosa? And tell me about Sosa a little bit.
Sosa is, I know you don't like it very much, but Sosa is like one of my favorite, if not maybe my favorite Project M players, because Sosa is such an asshole. He's such a douchebag. Like, it's so amazing. He has like no tact. He just speaks his mind so bluntly and like is generally like a dick about everything. He's like greedy. Like, his personality just like encapsulates Wario, his main. He just like is always like thinking about like himself and how he can get like a step ahead. It's just so great. I love Sosa because like he embodies his character's personality, and then he like also is really, really fucking good at really good at Smash. Like, he plays more Smash than anyone else in SoCal, and like it shows how hard he works because he just beats, like, he's been uncontested like the best in SoCal forever. He just beats everyone's ass, and then he's a dick about it too, which makes, I think, is just so entertaining. Like, from like the standpoint of like seeing Project M as like a narrative or a story, Sosa is just amazing for the game because he's so easy to like think of as like the evil or the villain within the community. And I think that you need that. You need your heels within the community, and Sosa fulfills that role like really well, even down to the character that he plays. I like the way that he like goes back and forth, like talking shit with like the East Coast and just like anyone in general is just so like, it's just one of the most entertaining things in the game to me.
Anything else that you feel has to be said in the Project M documentary? Hold on it, think about it. Any other things that you think this somebody needs to say this, somebody needs to include this?
Dang, let me think about that. I haven't thought about this question.
It's all hot now. Yeah.
Yeah, what happened?
Okay, well, first of all, it needs to be known above and before anything else that Nasty T and the boys are the greatest Project M crew, possibly Smash in general crew, to ever do it, ever. No explanation is really required, it just needs to be said. It's like a universal truth. The Brocal bunch ain't shit. Nasty T and the boys are the best. We all know this. Let's just get that out of the way. So that's the first thing. The second thing that must be known, wait, I had something, fuck, what is it? Oh, the next thing that needs to be known is that like, there's some kind of like, prevailing, should I wait for this?
It's okay, it's 1 o'clock, so we're only gonna get the one. We're gonna be okay.
Sweet. I just,
That was the things after represent what time it is.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Oh man. It's a good thing we got that little excerpt for the Nasty T documentary coming up.
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. We're working on that. That's gonna come out after the doc.
I mean, that's also
it's
full
gonna be
length,
long.
full
Yeah,
full
like,
feature, yeah.
These are 15K stretch goals.
Yeah.
We reached it, so.
Yeah.
Feature length. Who the hell is Nasty T?
Oh my god, if you actually put that shitty video I sent you of Nasty T, like, even if you just put it in the credits, I would laugh so hard. Anyway.
All right, yeah.
Oh yeah. People always talk about PM jank, and like, I just wanted to share like my favorite memory of like someone talking about jank in Smash, because jank is like what people use when they're talking about like anything that they don't understand in PM. It's just like, oh, like, this character is so jank because they're doing something that I've never seen in a Smash game. But it doesn't, the word doesn't really mean anything besides like, oh, this is something different that I haven't encountered before. But people will like often use jank as a John.
What does that mean? What's a John?
A John is just an excuse for why you lost. And it can be literally like any type of excuse, from like, this was a bad matchup, to like, the sun was in my eyes. Like, it can be like something entirely without the game, or something specific and about the game. It's just any type of excuse for why you lost is a John. And my most favorite John I've ever heard came from Boss, or Baba Ganoush as he's known now, when he just said, he like had just finished playing a set and I didn't know if he had won or lost, and I went up to him, I think he was against K9, and I was like, hey man, how'd you do in that set? And he was like, yeah, I lost, but there was some jank. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, yeah, I lost, dude, but you know, there was some jank, so, and like, that's like my favorite use of like the word jank as a John because it's like it just means nothing. It's just so like nebulous and bullshit and like it's just the greatest thing. I love that people like talk about jank so much in Project M that it has become like such a like universal like Project M concept that now you can just throw it out as like a buzzword to like excuse anything you want. I just thought that was like so funny. There's some jank. It's like the dev team shut down, but like there was some jank, you know? It's like we decided to, like Gimmer was like, yeah, you know, I decided to stop running Project M on Xanadu, but there was some jank. So yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I thought I had one thing. What was I forgetting?
I guess, do you know what it was in regards to?
I think it was about like current like community stuff.
Modern day PM.
Well, I guess as a follow up, where do you see PM like in the future? Moving on now.
Yeah. Or I guess also like something we didn't really ask you is like how do you feel like people? How much do you think people who don't play PM now, here today, 2017, know about modern day Project M? Like, what's the take from the rest of the Smash community?
People who don't play people that aren't part of the Project M community, even if they're in the Smash community, even if they're like checking up on like central Smash hubs like Reddit and stuff, people that aren't actually part of the PM community know nothing about PM. They like literally know nothing about PM. It's like shocking sometimes because you'll go to like, I'll go to like an event where they have Melee or Smash 4 or I'll go just on fucking Reddit. Oh God. I'll go like somewhere where people that aren't in the PM community are there and I'll talk to them about PM and I'll like say things that are just common knowledge for PM players that they'll be like, oh really? Like, I didn't know you still had tournaments at all. Or like, I didn't know that you still had streams at all. Or I didn't know that like Project M existed. Or like if they got into Smash before, like I legit think that some people that got into Smash after like Project M was taken off Twitch, they like legit don't even know like what Project M actually is or that it's still like it's just crazy. Like unless you're in the community, like you really don't know. And that's what makes like community building really difficult. Is like the first step is like showing people that you actually exist and like that's a hard first step to take because like how do you do that, you know?
We're working on it.
Yeah, definitely something we're working on. As for the future of PM, I really don't know where it's gonna go. It's kind of like, and I don't really like I don't know, because part of me wants it to like be killed by something better, which is weird, and I think I'm like a minority in that. But now that I've experienced like the whole like grassroots feel of PM, and now that I've gone through all that, I'm like, this was fun. It would be cool to have a real game where I don't have to deal with all the grassroots bullshit anymore, especially because like I'm getting older and like having more life responsibilities now. It's like, man, it'd just be easier to like, I don't know, play a real game. But so part of me hopes that like but I stay for like, because I like the community really, and so like part of me hopes that something will come along that we can move on to. Like I don't have much faith in Wave Dash Games or whatever, but like something to come along that we can move on to. I don't know if it'll ever happen. As far as Project M like thriving and existing, some days I feel like really good about it, and some days I feel really bad about it. Like for instance, the Bigger Balk was like this huge thing, and it was really great, and it went well, probably because I was the main person in charge of it. You know, Courtney and Jason did nothing. It was literally just me. That's something that also needs to be said. And the Bigger Balk was literally just me. It was just me. Okay, I did everything. Fuck everybody else.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, like literally.
I'm just gonna put Courtney and Jason on blast. The whole fucking movie.
Literally, let's go over things. First thing that I did for the Bigger Balk, I'm the reason that Balky was at the Bigger Balk. I created a fundraiser for Balky to be at the Bigger Balk. Some people were not. One person in particular was not happy about that fundraiser, but everyone else was stoked. And it got accomplished in like 1 or 2 days partially because Moosewad donated half the thing because he thought he was stupid and he thought that would make people like him, but people will never like you that much, Moosewad. Second thing is that I did for the thing is I created the BB fucking sketch. The BB sketch. I created the schedule which saved the bigger balk. On the day of the bigger balk, there was like a huge delay where we couldn't get in to set up until like way later than we were supposed to. And Jason was like running around like, oh my God, what do we fucking do? And I was like, don't worry, Jason. I created the BB sketch with this kind of scenario in mind. We have 2 extra hours to spare. We'll just kick everything back. And he was like, thanks, Nick. You are the greatest TO of all time. And I was like, I know. And then third, about the thing I did for the bigger balk was I was a fucking stream runner for all of fucking PM for both streams for the entire tournament. And what do you know? It was like the best stream tournament ever. There was like no gaps and delays in between all the matches. You got to see a ton of high level matches that were really interesting and cool.
You also ran the greatest Rivals of Aether tournament of all time.
I mean, that's for the other documentary. But I did run the greatest Rivals tournament of all time. I'm probably the most well-respected TO in the Rivals community. That's where I get respect, not in PM, is in Rivals. It's weird like that. Also, I'm just the shit. When I ran the bigger, I'm like the greatest thing ever in the bigger balk. Except for anything that, even though I was on the seeding team, any problems that anyone had with the tournament structure or the seeding of the tournament, you can address Mickey Coates with that. That was explicitly his fault. I had nothing to do with any of that. Everything that was bad, I was like, Mickey, I think we should change this. And he was like adamant about not changing it. I'm sorry. But everything else that was great, that was all me. That was really tangential.
All right, anything else you want to say?
I was in the middle of explaining something else before I talked about. I don't know where Project M will go in the future, but I'm hoping that it'll at least. My goal for Project M in its whole existence is that it can surpass the Paragon tournament. And low key, I haven't really told anyone this besides like the Balk people, but I really want the biggest Balk, or I want it to just be the biggest Balk, and I want it to be over. I don't think other people want that, but I want that. But I want the biggest Balk to be run in the San Antonio or San whatever convention center. I want it to be run in the same.
One?
Yeah.
Oh man.
I want the biggest Balk to be at the Paragon venue, and I want it to beat the Paragon numbers. I think that'd be so sick. So I'm like really pushing for that. I don't know if it'll happen, but
that's an expensive venue.
Yeah, it is.
Big fucking venue.
Well, I looked into it, and you can get like however much square footage you want.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it would be so fucking hype.
That'd be hype.
Anyway.
It's like 30 people off. Like we're gonna do it next year. Like it's gonna.
Yeah,
happen. We're gonna
I'm like
Paragon.
very confident it'll happen.
Yeah.
But like, I was talking about like how the bigger Balk made me like, it was really inspirational because it was like this huge thing. But then I feel like after the bigger Balk, like other tournaments weren't able to really replicate that same amount of success. Which, I mean, part of it is in fact that like the the bigger Balk, everything that went into the bigger Balk was just so much more intense than every other tournament. But I was hoping that the bigger Balk would kind of like set off this like catalyst of everything being better, and instead it was like everything's slightly better, if not the same as it was before the bigger Balk. So that's kind of a bummer, but I don't know.
Okay, I have a final one for you. It's gonna be kind of like a role-playing kind of situation. So let's say that I'm a high executive at Nintendo, right? And let's say in a hypothetical situation, I'm the one that pulled the trigger and killed PM.
And they care about what you think.
And I, I'm the one responsible for basically shoving PM in the corner. What would you say to me?
If you're the person that shut down PM.
Yeah, and I have zero regard for the PM community.
I guess my thing that I would say to like the people that shut down Project M, the people at Nintendo that shut it down, would be that they need to like look to other games for inspiration and other like competitive communities. Like Nintendo has this weird like obsession with making games not like they haven't embraced esports. They haven't embraced like competition in the way that other game developers have. And it's like a big deal. And like other developers, they see a mod of a game and that is successful and they like embrace it. And Nintendo just shoves it aside. And like from just like a completely like business like oriented standpoint, it's like, yeah, you may feel disrespected that like people like random fans thought they could make your game better than you did, but like you should just embrace it for like the passion that went into it and like be like just have an open mind about it. Like it just seems really like weird and totalitarian that like Nintendo seeks to shut everything down instead of like having an open mind about PM and seeing like, oh, how can we use this to like improve our own games, improve our own notoriety as like a company. So I guess that's what I would say to them, because like I'm not really mad. I guess I am mad that they shut it down, but I think that they're just more like ignorant, or like I feel like it was like a poor choice on their part, not like something, I don't know.
Good.
Was it pretty chill?
It was pretty chill.
Sick.
Do you think it was pretty chill?
When you said
So-
BB sketch.
The BB fucking sketch, dude.